Hello there and welcome. It's Democracy in Action once again. Of course, the meeting point is Third Eye Africa TV. Again, we want to look at the judiciary. We are not trying the judiciary. We want to talk about what is emanating from the judiciary. We hear of so many cliches, many terms, and we hear status. You have status quo ante antebellum. Status quo antebellum. These are things Nigerians, the voters, will want to know. And judgments are being delivered. They are always coming in different levels, different interpretations. It's like the writing is not on top of the line, but in between the lines. Sometimes voters are left to begin to interpret what the judge is saying, what the law is saying. How do we break it down to a certain level that people will understand? My name is Ben Adam Shaman, and I have a guest who is not new here, a lawyer, and at the point, do I describe him as a politician too? But I know at the point, he went into some politics. At the point, he had some issues with some politicians. We'll discuss all of that as I welcome Barrister Ahmed Abubakar. Thank you for coming once again to Third Eye Africa TV.
It's a delight to be on your program.
Yes. Now, let's make it lighter by making some definitions before we even go into, when we say status. Let's start with the word status. What are the other ones? What is status?
As it is.
As it is.
As it is.
As it is.
Yes.
That's the status.
Yes.
Okay. Status quo unco.
Status quo ante. As it is before now. You see, when you take some certain steps, it means before approaching, now we are using it in a contextual form. You are approaching the court and you coming before the court with certain prayers, certain demands, certain misgivings that you want the court to intervene. So what you are trying to say is that it can come from you, it can come from the court. If it's coming from the court, it means so motu, that is on the court's own volition. They now say, okay, parties should remain the way they are before coming to the court. Things should be left the way they are. You know, in any conflict, there's what we call the rex, the main object of instituting an action, or the source of the conflict. You want to do as much as possible to protect that res, that's the subject matter in this contest, so that at the end, if judgment is given, the judgment should not be an exercise in futility. There must be something that you seek to protect.
And you have this antebellum.
It's just a continuation of that same whole definition. What they are trying to point out is that parties should remain the way they are before approaching the court. All these are just mere Latin maxims, of which in a legal parlance now we want to reduce that. We want to use simple English in that the ordinary literal interpretation. Maintain what used to be before you approach the court.
Exactly, because when you begin to hear ubi juice, ubi meridium, kiki solo,
said it, all those are just Latin maxims. But the most important thing is the justice of any matter. That is what is key. So you don't need Latin maxim to win your case. Latin maxim not in any way will assist you in winning your case. Most of our laws have been codified. You have them in the gamut of law. We have them based on precedents of decided cases. All those Latin maxims are things of the past.
Because sometimes it looks like the legal profession wants to hide something from the educated people. You know, the lawyers are the learned. Those who there is the education.
Truth be told, I think there's a lot of pressure on both the bench and we at the bar. Your client wants you to do exactly what he wants and not what the law provides. And for some, because of survival, you take their money. For lawyers, you take your professional fee and you try to give him a semblance of what he wants. If you look at the recent judgment, both parties are celebrating. So they will now give thumbs up to their both lawyers. But in any kind of endeavor of contest, there must be a winner, there must be a loser. It could be that there's, in the words of our former president, no victor, no vanquish. But we all know that somebody has been vanquished and somebody will equally taste the bitter pill.
Now, let us focus on INEC before we go to these judgments. Before now, David Mark, Aregbesola, that team was removed from INEC portal. Soon after yesterday's judgment, it was replaced.
Very well.
Was INEC right in all of that?
You see, if you recall, I told you something in one of my appearance on this program, that government agencies, they choose the law they want to enforce. If the law is not favorable to them, they will tell you they are still waiting for the certified true copy, CTC, of the judgment, and they will now want to now give the judgment the interpretation they understand. INEC, those in INEC should be held accountable for this whole quagmire and the unnecessary attention this case has generated. In the first instance, nowhere was it mentioned or was it dictated to INEC that status quo antebellum means they should go and now deregister the name of David Mark and Aregbesola. If you look at the literal meaning, we said, let things remain the way they are before Nafiu Bala, that's the factional ADC chairperson, before he approaches the court. And what was it? Before then, if INEC had already admitted, recognized David Mark and Aregbesola as the party chieftain, they have no business now trying to change whatever it is. They should have allowed the court. It's the court now that would dictate that, yes, whatever must have been done. You cannot put nothing on something and expect it to stand. David Mark and Aregbesola can go ahead, conduct convention, do everything, and at the end, the single judgment will crumble everything they would have done. So INEC is to be blamed. They were too in a haste and to jump into the gallery. By their own admission, they deposited in an affidavit on oath that they recognized that Nafiu Bala had resigned at a point in time. They've accepted his resignation as part of the document before them. So the irregularity in the eyes of the law has been committed. What the status quo antebellum as at that time should have sufficiently covered is that since you have already accepted David Mark and Aregbesola, leave it the way it is for now. The case now is before in fact, you don't need any pronouncement. Once the matter is before a court, both parties and all interested parties are expected not to take any further action. If David Mark and Aregbesola and the co were busy doing other things, it means on their own, they are already going against the court, the doctrine of les pendis. Don't do anything, wait for the outcome. Don't do anything substantial that will destroy the rest in this case. So INEC did not play the neutral role we expected them to play. And that's why they are trying by all means to now go into the good books of the society by rushing to do what is expected of them. They are now trying to cure the mistake they made. In the first instance, if you want to take it strictly speaking, then they should still leave it the way it is. But they've already made the mistake when it was not necessary. And now they are just looking for a saving face approach. They now relied on the Supreme Court judgment, part of the judgment, or only one aspect of the judgment that says that notion of status quo antebellum as misconstrued by INEC to be taken out completely. That means they will now return back to the way the party used to be before Nafiu Bala approached the court.
Now, can status quo ante be in levels? For example, if they say, go back to how it was before now.
Sure.
Good. Before now, there was David Mark and his team.
Sure.
Before David Mark, there was
Nwosu.
Yes. So when you now say go to let the status quo ante remains, so which of these will you go to?
The day you filed, if you file on the 1st of August, what was the situation as at 31st of July, the last day of July before 1st of August. The way it were when you were filing your papers, when they were stamping it, if it is Nafiu Bala that was the chairman, or if he had declared himself, let it remain. That is why the intention is the court will not direct Nafiu Bala not to act. At the same time, it will not direct David Mark not to act. At the same time, it will not direct INEC not to act. So what INEC is expected to have done is to remain neutral. Both parties now, they are not expected to take consequential actions that will affect the subject. They can go ahead parading themselves as both factional leaders, as the chairman. This one will say, I'm the chairman. Both of them can go ahead to conduct whatever congresses they want to conduct. At the end, is until when final judgment is given, then the ones that have the judgment, everything they've done within that time, before that time, will now stand the test of time. The others, all what they have done will term it null and void in the eyes of the law, as if it never existed.
Okay. Now let's look at the case of PDP. The law is final. I mean, the Supreme Court, so final in its finality.
Sure.
No more appeal.
Sure.
The Hausa will say, Allah Isa.
Sure.
Wazemai.
Sure.
That kind of a thing. Now they've told the Turatiki group,
sure,
your convention was a nullity.
Sure.
What is left for that group?
What is left for that group? I think at this point, what is left for even both sides, because they keep Nigerians will like to interpret the law the way we want, and they want to overburden the court. You will be shocked some other parties will still approach the Supreme Court that they want the Supreme Court to interpret the judgment that is very clear. Let the board of trustees of the party now come up, have a caretaker committee, and start afresh. They need to go back to the drawing board. Do they have enough time? I doubt much. They can only salvage the image of the party. You see, things are not, the danger a lot of people are not looking at when they are in haste to celebrate is that all these things is happening within a context. There's an electoral act that has been enforced, has been passed. The INEC, they've given guideline. And the essence of this guideline is to enable them prepare ahead. So your own preparation is not subject to their own preparation. Your rights could not have been said to have been violated. If you fail to put your house in order, it will not be to the detriment of other political parties that do not have those issues. A criminal law, you see, there is what we call mens rea and actus rea. As a politician, if I'm in a context, the other party are my enemies. It's not my duty to make life very comfortable for them. It's my duty to make life very uncomfortable for them so that I'll continue to win. So if they make it easy for the party in power, who do you have to blame? All these things, both for all the parties that we are witnessing now, these are things that ought to have been taken care of about a year or 2 years ago. We keep repeating it. The best time for any electoral amendment, the best time for any strategy is not when the election is by the corner. You are supposed to prepare 3 years ahead. For all the big weeks in the various parties moving around from one party to the other, what stops them? What stops an Atiku, a Konkoso, a Peter Obi from nurturing a political party from grassroots and sustaining it so that even if you don't want to use that vehicle, you have a special purpose vehicle you want to use, at least have one that is devoid of any form of crisis.
The way Seriaki Dixon
is doing. Well, we did not know. In fact, at the point in time, people are now asking who is behind his party, because they never even thought he would be that smart enough to create his own party. And the party now is what is in the eyes of the storm, because I think for now, that's the only party, apart from very few that are not in one way or the other, in one conflict or the other, that could jeopardize their chances. So for PDP, I don't think they stand any chance, because still those factional leaders, they are yet to shit. That's why I said don't be surprised. Tomorrow they will approach the Supreme Court through a different approach, maybe seeking to interpret even the judgment that has been delivered. Otherwise, they might term it that they want a review. You know, the Supreme Court is a court of finality, but lately Nigerians have, some of my colleagues, they've now devised a special means. They call it review of judgment. They are now urging, my lord, that it's possible that certain aspect of it were reached par incario, that's in error. So they want them to now review the judgment, of which the good thing is that my lord justices, they've been very harsh on lawyers that adopted that approach with heavy sanctions.
I can see big fines.
Big fines
being given,
running into hundreds of millions.
Yeah.
Yes, to deter other would be needless litigant from taking that approach.
So, as it is now, who is the chairman, national chairman of PDP?
As it is now, they don't have chairman. What they need to do now, if both sides, you see as I said, what the court has helped them to do is to tell them that both of you are wrong. Since both of you are wrong, you can either go and reconcile. You can now allow a neutral body of the party, maybe the BOT now, to now set up a proper caretaker committee. What they are fighting over is already over. A serious politician will not go into PDP with the hope of contesting for any political office, because you already know is either is in the Tenimu Turaki faction, or is in the Wike faction, or of late is in the Makinde's faction. And you don't want to go and waste your resources when you know that a party is factionalized. It's better you go to an unknown party and try your luck than to go and obtain victory, and at the end, the victory will just be taken away from you and given to your opponent as if your whole effort was never put in place in the first instance. It has happened so many times. The latest example is the case of Zamfara, where you have the PDP. The PDP was given the position that was won by the APC because of certain things that they failed to do.
Now, if you check the convention in Ibadan, they said it remains a nullity.
Sure.
But that of Abuja, there's silence about it.
You see, that I said, the silence is what I'm telling you, that nobody now can now effectively lay a claim to say mine is right. Because they declare one in nullity, they declare the other one too, that you don't even have a right to approach the court since you are in contempt of the court. If you disobey court order, court has given an order not to take any action, maybe to maintain status quo antebellum, and you decide to go and be doing your convention, be selling forms, be doing all those, and the court is not telling you, we will not even bother to go into the merit of your case because you have disobeyed, you are in contempt, you are in contempt of this court. You have disobeyed our order. Any order of a court, it remains valid until it is set aside. So if you disobey it, there is consequences. And based on that, they are not telling you that all your action is nullity. And in the same way, they fail to affirm. You see, in the years to come, what we expect our Lord Justices to do is not because we lack proper comprehension of English, but because of our mischievous nature. I think it's high time that our justices, in order to prevent what we call the mischief rule, because you know that somebody will naturally be mischievous. You will not only give judgment, but in law, you will not give judgment by giving literal meaning to the wording of what you are deliberating, because you already know that somebody will read a negative meaning or a meaning that will suit what you did not say or what you said differently. We are hoping that our judge will now, they will call it canon of law, mischief rule of interpretation. So now mischief rule of pronouncing judgment. We now tell you that the essence of this judgment is that the two factions cannot lay claim to the chairmanship position. The party structure from all levels should come together and form a caretaker committee. And the various channels are very easy. It could be status quo antebellum. They could take from the last time before the conflict started, who were the party chairmen at all levels, who were the board of trustees. They could constitute it. They know what they do, and I assure you, within a short time, they will do what is right. But as regards it being used as a vehicle for contestation in electioneering, is already too late.
So, such cases, when they deliver it that way, it looks like adversarial. You advise them,
sure,
rather than passing a judgment. This side is wrong.
What we expect them to do is that you are making your pronouncement The court is not a Father Christmas, or it's not a fire brigade, it's not a fire brigade personnel that they will be looking for fire to quench when there is none. But Nigerians, all of us, not only even the litigant now, we have created that fire. We are now begging our judges to be that Father Christmas for the purposes of giving a contextual judgment that will put, because there's a need for element of finality. You say both parties cannot lay claim to the chairmanship position of the party because they have failed to do this and this. Consequently, you see, judges are empowered, because that's why the issue of suo motu on their own. What is in the best interest? Because courts like the Supreme Court, they make policy decision that not only affect the case but the entirety of the polity. Things that will bring about peace, stability, and will take care of national security. So if I know that if mischief makers are still there to cause mayhem, mischief, you give a consequential order that consequent upon denying this application, upon setting aside this appeal, we further state that the party should go back to the drawing board and constitute a proper caretaker committee within maybe a time limit to even compel them to do what is right. Since we have now decided that we don't want to be using our brains anymore, we want the court to be deciding everything on our behalf. The court should take that initiative to make it adversarial as we want to look at it, with consequences and sanctions if possible.
Now, we go to ADC. Judgments too have been delivered.
Absolutely.
And should David Mark, Rauf Areboshala, that group, that national executive, should they sleep very well that judgment is in their favor? Because it looks like at the state level, things are different. At the national level, things are different. You are an insider in all of this. And when you're talking about Nasiru Bala Gombe, what's his own position? Then you have Dumebi Kachuku, who used to be presidential candidate of the party. Each is pulling this way. Then you look at Raf Okenwosu. He's also pulling. People are just waking up here and there. So, should ADC leadership go to bed and say, look, the Supreme Court has recognized us. But underneath, there are other judgments that are not pro the national.
Okay.
Give us some light.
In throwing light on this, it's good that we go to the foundation. Maybe when we start from the foundation, a lot of people will understand what has happened in the Supreme Court. As I said, Supreme Court did not only give the kind of regular judgment that me and you know, but they can make policy judgment that can put a finality on an issue. They can assume jurisdiction not only as an appellate court, they can even assume jurisdiction as a trial court, depending on what facts are before them. In this context, what has happened based on the fact that is already on public domain. Nafiu Bala approached the Federal High Court and says he doesn't want David Mark and co. to be the leaders of the party because they are still, they just came into the party. And for you to be the leader of the party, you ought to have spent 2 years. And they have failed to do that. There was no waiver. There was no amendment of the Constitution. So anything that they must have done is illegal. For him, he believed that he did not resign. And since they have resigned, he is expected to take leadership of the party. He approached the court via an ex parte application. Ex parte application is that Federal High Court, before Justice Lefu, hear me alone. You don't need to hear them and give me judgment because these things are expedient, these things are clear enough. He said, no, these things are not clear enough. These things are contentious. I will not hear you alone. Go and invite the other party, David Mark and co. Let them come and defend what you are saying and show us cause why we should not do otherwise by granting your prayers. Instead of David Mark and co. to approach and defend the matter, they rushed to the Court of Appeal, saying that nephew does not even have the local standing. He is not the right person to institute such kind of action in the first instance. And the trial court, that's at the Federal High Court level, they were wrong in the eyes of the law to even entertain him in the first place and to even direct that they should come and respond to his prayers, that they shouldn't have even done that in the first place. And based on that, the appeal court said no, that this appeal is unmeritorious. Why are you appealing? They only ask you to come and defend yourself at the Federal High Court, and you are rushing down to the Court of Appeal. They were dissatisfied. They now went to the Supreme Court with that same thing, with 7 other prayers. They want the Supreme Court to recognize them, to prevent nephew Bala. They see one of their representatives saying that it was a strategy, that their sole aim is to take care of that status quo antebellum. And you see, for them, the interpretation is shallow because they think that will cure the defect. It's curing no defect. And what the Supreme Court now did, Supreme Court now, all the other prayers, the 6 other prayers, the Supreme Court denied them that prayer. And now granted one prayer, that status quo antebellum should be maintained. And that has never been a contentious issue from beginning till the end. And now directed that you should still go back to the Federal High Court and the matter should now be heard on its merit. Facts, witnesses will now be called upon. Then the judgment will now be given. Between me and you, I don't know the kind of modus operandi. It means maybe the judge will not entertain any other case. He can be hearing their matter on a daily basis, and which we know our courts don't operate that way. And
I think they're even going on break or something.
And a lot of them, what they fail to realize is that he said they should go and hear the matter on its merit. So the matter is starting afresh. All parties, Nephew Bala Gombe, David Mark Group, and any other interested party that can join, equally have a right of appeal now to the Court of Appeal.
Sorry, let me inject this before you continue. Can they be consolidated into one case?
Yes, they can be consolidated. What they can do is that they can even take out all the other related cases and fuse them into one, because any judgment pass has a consequential order, and that is what is expected in the court. Right now, I'm aware of about 5 other related cases. Some are even saying as much as 10. What you expect the judge of the Federal High Court, the Chief Judge of the Federal High Court, to do is to issue out a notice that all cases on ADC inter-leadership issue should be consolidated into a single case. Based on the facts of the case, certain parties will be the complainant and others the defendant. Then a consequential orders on every approach taken can now be given, so that there will be seamless appellate procedure from Federal High Court, Court of Appeal. Then Supreme Court can now give the final judgment before they can go and celebrate. But for now, it's not yet Uhuru. Both parties know that they are not telling themselves the honest truth. Nobody, depending on your strategy, what do you seek to achieve? Litigation at times is not only for winning. I don't think Nephew Bala has the capacity to lead a primary school congress or union body, but he's achieving in what he wants to do. If the essence is to prevent David Mark, Aregbesola, and other presidential aspirants, if regardless of who is backing him, to ascend to power position. And you see why a lot of Nigerians are concerned. We believe that for now, depending on the permutation on ground, ADC is the most credible, viable tool to kick out the government in power. So if they cannot get their acts together, the blame should not be on the government in power. The blame should be squarely on the leadership. If you are seeking, there's nothing stopping each and every of those presidential aspirants from having their various political party, and there's nothing stopping them from having a rainbow coalition, in the sense that at the end of the day, they will now present a single candidate from one of the party they want to rely on, or they can now adopt one of the party at the tail end, where they know that there won't be any litigation that could set them, because as I said, it's not the duty of the presidency or the government in power to make life very comfortable for the opponent. It's for the opponent now to be very smart, plan all the way to ensure that they've already tackled, they should predict all this unnecessary distraction. They should now set mitigants that will cure it. They failed woefully in that regard.
So what about the time frame, for example? When you had APC, a fusion of ABGA, PDP, ADC, just name it. Sure. It was a kind of a fusion. Then there's supposed to be a time lapse and in terms of merger.
Sure.
So should there be issues of they can't register?
Sure.
They are not recognized by INEC because of law or because of time frame.
Sure.
Isn't there going to be also be a time if they say, let's fuse together? Because there has to also be time for them to fuse. Time to put INEC on notice.
If that's what they are now even working against for themselves. The time they should have used to resolve this matter, they want to go and waste it in the court. When they are done with the court, time must have already gone and it would have been too late. What I would have advised to them for free is that there are still other viable political parties. Maybe I should mention them, like the NDC. There's nothing stopping them from going into the NDC with whole intention of having a viable opposition to the government in power. Then they can now take over the party structure. Then they can now conduct a proper congress without anybody going to convention. Maybe one or two other parties, even though maybe PRP, but I learned to they have factional leadership challenge as well. But for NDC, because the newly registered party, they could now exchange, reach an agreement and make all the necessary compromise. They are going into the contest clean. They can absorb elements from the PDP, absorb elements. Recall in 1998-99, Obasanjo contested against an AD that has a vice presidential candidate from the AMPP, late Alhaji Umaru Shinkafi. If you look at that, a coalition, a rainbow coalition is what we have always expected. And I believe they should have had consultants, they should have political scientists to have guided them with legal experts. If I'm consulted in the whole process of getting a special purpose vehicle for the realization of a rainbow coalition, the moment I pick ADC, I will conduct a search in all the courts in the federation to know if there's any form of litigation. A simple Google search will reveal to you that there's an ongoing Dumebi Kachiko's crisis. Is it a crisis that you can resolve? What is it at stake for him? The likes of Nafiu Bala, I had worked with him. I know his person. The contestation that he has been.
Barrister. We'll come to that as we just go on a very short break because we have to do an X-ray of what is still on ground because we are told that at the state level, every state still has a chairman, has officials.
Absolutely.
And all of that have not been dissolved.
Absolutely.
And they have also refused to hand over to anybody.
Absolutely.
And David Mark's group at the national level has not also held a congress at the state level. None for local governments.
Absolutely.
So there is still so much underground. We'll come to all of that. And our guest is Barrister Ahmed Abubakar. My name, very constant, Ben Adam Shaman. We'll come to all of this. Let's just take this break. Yes, welcome back. Still on issues of party politicking and the law. Before going on break, we said, look,
The state Congress.
ADC still has some issues on ground. Stakeholders at the state level have been left just like that. And that is why Dumebi Kachuku came up to say, look, these people at the state level are still there and they are his. There's a challenge there.
Absolutely.
So how do we interpret all of this?
It makes it easy because there's a Federal High Court judgment that was delivered last week in favor of the various state chairmen. And part of the judgment is that their tenure will only elapse until November. And they prayed the court that the court should not recognize the faction of David Mark and the nephew Balabello. So it means as at today now, there's a valid subsisting judgment recognizing the various state chairperson as now being in charge of the party because their tenure has not elapsed. Their tenure is, by the pronouncement of the court, will elapse by November. So we are only talking about one aspect. That I said, there are so many other litigation. The David Mark group can now appeal that same judgment. Then it will go to the Court of Appeal. Consolidating it will be late because judgment has already been given. So that one will stand on its own. And the appeal will flow from the Federal High Court to the Court of Appeal to the Supreme Court. Then these new other ones, maybe the Chief Justice might consolidate them. If not, all of them will be had on its merit. In this kind of situation, it's not only originating summons. Now, the court might want to now call on evidences, verbal evidences, not only documentary evidences. In the sense that witnesses will be called. There's issue of allegation of forgery. David Barr is saying my signature was forged.
And so that's a crime.
That's a crime.
A different ball game
entirely. For you to prove such kind of things, you will need to call witnesses, signature experts, so many other evidences. So it will naturally take a lot of time. So as I said, you are dealing with a multi-dimensional, multifaceted challenges coming from various areas. And the timing within which, if it had been maybe a year ago, 2 years ago, you can apply for accelerated hearing, knowing that the INEC timetable will be out any moment. But now we are already in electioneering season. I don't know what magic. Maybe the court will give a judgment that either should extend the time and they adjust its timetable, but it will not be fair for another political parties that do not deliberately allow unnecessary issues to bedevil them.
But can the court deliver a judgment and say, INEC, adjust your time? And will that also not involve the National Assembly trying to tinker with the challenge, with the Electoral Act?
Because it will now affect, it will definitely affect the Electoral Act because there's a time frame for everything. So what the judgment can now be is that certain requirements that is expected of them will now be waived, like maybe the 30 days notice, the time to within which to conduct their congresses and every other thing. What if for example, the court finds that the David Mark's group, all what they have done is a nullity. The other faction have not done anything that would take care of those that gap. So it means in one way or the other, they have to find a way. So the whole essence is that you ask yourself, any serious politician will not want to waste his time, his energy, his resources on an uncertain, unpredictable route. For now, if you want to vie for governorship, you will start campaigning with a party that you have challenges here and there. You don't know your left from your right. I think it's high. A lot of us personally we support the opposition, but the opposition must get its act together. You are not contesting maybe a very benevolent president like Goodluck Jonathan that will make life very easy for you. You are dealing with someone that will not allow you that space. So you should not give him that opportunity.
Now, in all of this, is democracy in danger in Nigeria? Because you could see some people holding demonstrations here and there. You want to do some picketing of the National Assembly. You want to pick, in fact, they block even INEC headquarters. The chairman should resign.
Absolutely.
I mean, does that not say a lot when indeed they can simply put their house in order?
Yes, you see, democracy is in danger because of the players in it. That's the politician. They are endangering democracy. Then, unfortunately, the leadership of INEC, to the role they've played, the new chairman has shown a lot of, favoritism. There is needless action he ought not to take. As a senior advocate of Nigeria, he should know better.
And a professor of law.
Professor of law, you should know better. Your role now is not only to do things rightly. You have to give the other parties equal playing ground. You build confidence, you deposit trust in them that yes, you are, as far as you are concerned, you are a disinterested party. Anything they want to do, you are there for every party, and you treat them equally. The courts are there to always resolve the issues that is bedeviling them. For the fact that they said the court, not a lot of people too are misinterpreting that. It doesn't mean because you have a political party, you have formed a constitution, and you now decide to abuse the constitution, and you think there's a law that will prevent the court from it. There's no law on earth that will prevent court from interpreting. Me and you cannot sign an agreement that will oust the jurisdiction of our court. There's no law for that. The closest is to have an arbitration clause. Another arbitration clause is taking the position of the court. So it means the arbitration is existing based on our mutual agreement. If for any reason, maybe fraud, maybe impartiality or partiality of the arbitration panel, you can still approach the court. So parties they have the responsibility of resolving their internal issues as well. And it must be in compliance with the constitution of the party. Those documents are not documents that are written that you just write and put in your bookshelf. It has a purpose, and the purpose is that for such kind of days that there will be conflicting disposition. If you cannot resolve it amongst yourself, then you look at what does your constitution provide. Is that provision of your constitution with the facts on ground that the court will now interpret? The restriction is that court should not grant ex parte application whereby you listen to one side, you grant his prayer, you put the other party in jeopardy. All the deliberation thus far, if you seek for an ex parte application, they will tell you go and put the other party on notice. We can now, instead of the granting of ex parte application, what is what we call accelerated hearing. The court can sit on a daily basis, and within a week, a whole matter can be dispensed with. So for now, democracy is in danger. The key players, the key actors, the stakeholders, they are the ones endangering it. We have a collective responsibility. We will not want to go back to the era of military rule. Our democracy is no longer nascent, it's no longer novel. A child that has been pampered and catered for more than 30 years is an adult, a full-blown adult that should be a father, that should know his ethics, that should know his responsibility, that should know his limitation. We should not overheat the system. Those in power should not make life so difficult. We should adopt the Jonathan approach that the life of any individual and the suffering of the majority of Nigerians does not want. Nobody should force himself to be in power. Power should be about good governance. I assure you, if the government in power has been delivering to the best of our satisfaction, the clamor to oust the government will be less. And for those that want to oust the government, the question I would normally want to ask, what are they bringing on board? What do they intend to do radically different? Is it their incapacity to even manage the party affairs? Peter Obi was in Labour Party. We know how he left Labour Party. Atiku Abubakar was in PDP. We know how he left PDP to find himself in a small party like the ADC. Kwankwaso was in NNPP. So with all those bigwigs coming to a smaller party like ADC, the assumption is they should know better. They should have done their background check. We shouldn't be hearing of all this. And if the catch is, if you cannot manage a political party, it will be difficult for you to manage the nation, because the nation as a whole is more complex than the political party that just constitute a very negligible number of Nigerians.
And when they take decisions, they could be daring. And your mentioning of the fact that Nigeria is not a military regime also brings to mind the days of Abacha, when there were 5 political parties
leprous
that Bola described as infested with leprous fingers. Yes. Now, we are seeing a situation where this consensus candidacy is becoming now a cliche. There is an expression now, I think in Yoruba, it's a Baba Wipe. Baba said that. In other words, some people say, oh, they'll just bring, a governor will bring someone, take him to the president, come out, and the next thing is, there's consensus. Candidate. That's the preferred candidate.
Or the anointed
according
candidate.
To Baba.
Sure.
Baba Wipe. Baba has said that this is the candidate.
Sure.
Some people are not taking it kindly.
For me, I think that problem has been solved. You know, this time around, there's a level of openness and transparency. The Electoral Act, not the party constitution, now says you must conduct primaries if any of the aspirants. So for those people complaining, they are not actually very serious. If you are serious, what is expected of you? Go and purchase the nomination form and expression of interest form. The governor or the president can anoint, can nominate, can have anybody as his preferred candidate. For the fact that you have purchased form and you have filled out your expression of interest form, that law now has empowered you that there must be contestation. And now it's about your popularity versus the anointed candidate. Let me give you a typical example. In Nasarawa State, our next door neighbor here, the anointed candidate is Senator Aliyu Wadada. He has been anointed, he has been blessed. But the former Inspector General of Police,
Aliyu Mohammed.
Yes, Aliyu Mohammed Adamu, he has purchased his form. He believes he has the popularity. He believes by the time they get delegates at cross-board, he might be able to steal out and get a chunk of the vote. And in this case, there's no amount, it cannot be expelled.
Just like Lagos, there's that heat that is coming up.
It cannot be expelled, it cannot be denied, he will be allowed to contest. So anybody that is complaining of having anointed candidate, having consensus candidate, they are not being truthful, they are either being scared or they don't even have the capacity in the first instance to aspire. The law now has mandated you, the INEC, the Electoral Act now says, once you have purchased that form, more than a person now, it means there must be an election. You cannot have, before now, any party can just go, write name, in fact, you don't even need to contest. And even if the contest is carried on, they can substitute any name, but now you cannot do that. Now there must be physical vote counting of those delegates, and a single person will be returned. So the era of having consensus candidates, strictly speaking, is over. What we will now have is truly consensus candidate. I have purchased form and I have decided to step aside for the other person. That is what we mean by consensus candidate. Not that the governor will anoint and prevent every other person. Even the president, I know 1 or 2 people that have purchased form to contest against President Ahmed Bola Tinubu. So if consensus candidate, if Baba can sideline everybody, why is he not sidelining those that want to contest against him? He spent about 100 million to purchase form. Maybe at the end they will get a single vote or 2, but at least they will express their interest. They will show that yes, the law can operate.
Like Sarah Jibrin.
Like Sarah Jibrin did in
PDP.
Is it PDP? She did it, yeah, in PDP.
PDP.
Yeah, and she voted for herself with all humility.
She showed she could.
She showed she could. So we have that same opportunity. Once you have the capacity, you have the resources, go and get your form, go and get your expression of interest, your nomination form. It is now left for you to step aside for that anointed candidate. Use the case of Nasarawa as a case study. Wali Wadada is going to contest, Adamu Ali is going to contest IGP, the former IGP, is going to contest against Senator Aliyu Wadada. Aliyu Wadada is the preferred candidate of the power that be, but the IGP is going to rely on his popularity.
Now, a situation like that, you can imagine the financial muscles. You leave the former IG to fight all alone. Then, since a governor has so chosen somebody and they've taken him to the president, in terms of the campaign, the facilities that will be available for the preferred candidate of government and the one who is in the party yet a kind of opposition. Recall what has been happening over convention venues. You want to campaign, they say that place is insecure, you can't go, no guarantee, we can't protect you. You want that venue to hold a rally, they say no, government has a marriage activity or something, immunization lectures and all that. They deny you. So what do you think of a situation of that nature?
Truth be told, you see, there's this loyalty to power that is very prevalent in our polity. Once you are a governor, everybody sees you as a political leader. Most of the times, the loyalty of all the party structure is directly tied to you. So what you say has a level of finality. So I can assure you it will be almost impossible for any of those candidates that has refused that consensus arrangement to succeed. As you have enumerated, the challenges that will be placed before them, the hurdles will be so herculean that they will barely survive it from every angle. You see, for those of us that have participated in electioneering, you win from, in fact, not on the election day, long before that day, because they will set up structures, they will set up systems, they will set up programs that will completely take you out from the time
hurdles.
From the time delegates are being selected, what they are being told, where they are being camped. The party chairman is already in the pocket of the governor. He will be the one that will set up the panel. They will be the one that will determine the time, the venue, the accreditation. At the end, it's completely impossible to survive that kind of onslaught. You just be wasting your time. But it's good at least to challenge power, to tell truth to power, to show a division, to tell the people that yes, the minority will have their voices heard, but the majority will still have their way. The governors hold the 4Ss, their candidate will still be returned, no matter what.
Now, the eminent persons group, Bishop Kuka, General Abdulsalami, former head of state, Chivemeka Anyaoku, a whole lot of the Sultan of Sokoto, a whole lot of them. In all of this, they are keeping quiet. It's when the elections are around, they say, oh yeah, come and sign here that it's going to be violent free. Are there not enough warning signals for them to appear now?
For now, it will be too, you see, I think the whole problem is about our political culture. The nurturing is not there. Political parties over time, they have failed to perform the most critical function that they are expected about sensitization, about education, about responsibility, about people taking charge. We are not supposed to leave political participation to the big wig. You and I, every other person, civil servant, the man, the downtraded, we are supposed to belong to one or two political parties. And the essence is that you show involvement by active participation, the way we used to have it during the First Republic, the Second Republic, where individuals at all levels from what you are contributing, you are donating, you are paying a token on a monthly basis. This is my contribution to the sustenance of the action group. This is my contribution from my family to sustain SCP, to sustain NEPU, to sustain all those parties. They know you are involved. At the moment, a lot of us are not involved. We only come in during electioneering. If you want to vie for office, it's time to sell forms, and you want to be a delegate. So political parties have failed. It's not the responsibility of the eminent membership. The responsibility is on all of us, is on the civil society, is on political party. In fact, contesting an election is the least functions of why we have political party. Rather, educating the electorate of their rights, of their responsibility, so that they can hold those in government accountable is the most important aspect, and that most of the political parties have failed significantly. Look at what we are having now. The government in power have been in power for close to, if you look at the recent one, for 3 years, and if you look at in whole for more than 11 years or so. Has the opposition, have they held government accountable? How many programs have they sponsored, maybe on air, on private TV, to show the defect, to show the deficiency that, okay, government are not doing? How have they used, like, maybe the shadow kind of government thing to say, okay, we are holding government accountable, we are providing, we are trying to give an alternative that, although we are not in power, if given the opportunity, we would have been able to do things differently. If you look at what we have now, we have a...
Padu Tome actually tried to form a shadow government.
No, that's not the kind of context of which we are looking at it. A proper opposition party. You don't need to come and make it a fun-fair thing. What we need to do is give us an alternative. Not the kind of one ADC is giving us, not the kind of one Labour Party has been giving for some time. It show us that the government are defective. They have failed to implement budget 2024-2025 down to 2026. They have not done this. They've not used the gains from subsidy removal to the right way. If it had been us, we would have done things differently. We would have ensured this would be in place. This is how we are realistic and how we seek to achieve it within a given time frame. We don't have all that. Rather, is internal party crisis and the aspiration of heavyweight individual to just seek for power for the sake of power.
Yeah, one would have also expected that IPAC, that's Inter-Party Advisory Council, all the political parties, you have a body that is always supposed to be
they do meet.
The think tank.
They have of which I know the chairman, they do meet, but you see the relevancy only comes in during electioneering. And once the electioneering time is over, right now, even the Electoral Act is affecting them negatively because some of them, they are having challenges even submitting the register member of their party, both in soft copy and the physical, because the processes and the time frame is very short for some of them. So the challenges are going to be that some of them, over time, they've kind of been partnering with INEC, trying to get agents, trying to get some favors here and there, and anytime election is conducted, some of them will be in a haste to go and celebrate with the winner of the election so that they can give them 1 or 2 slots and 1 or 2 contracts. But you will just mention this is their responsibility. They are the ones to ensure that the politics is not overheated. They are the ones that ensure that there's fair play. There is an equal level playing ground for everybody to participate actively.
Well, it is here that having always been inviting you and you come and participate actively, we want to end this edition of the program Democracy in Action, and it came to you through the Third Eye Africa TV here in Abuja. Our guest has been Barrister Ahmed Abubakar. Never a dull moment with him. Thank you for every insight. And we are always proud of you being a Nigeria, proudly Nigerian.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming here. Thank you for using the green passport.
Absolutely.
Thank you in rejecting xenophobic attacks.
We definitely reject it.
Thank you very much. My name is Ben Adam Shema. We say bye for now. Thank you.